Welcome to the Holistic Health Show, where the worlds of science and spirituality converge to illuminate a path towards total well-being. Join us as we embark on a journey to bridge the gap between Western medicine and complementary therapies. Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Health Show. Today on the podcast, we're talking to Alora Kubanek, who is a somatic self-compassion coach. And today our topic is how to interpret what your body is telling you. I can't wait to hear about this, Alora, and thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'd love it if you would just jump right in and tell me a little bit about what you do and why you do it.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I, above all things, am a body nerd. I've been studying especially biomechanics for quite a long time so that I could improve the way that I move and improve the way that I feel. And it's been a lifelong search practice working with for myself and with my clients to really understand the body in a really kind of deep way. And what I do now is I work one-on-one with people to develop a conversation with their body so that they can really understand it deeply.
It's so important. You would almost just assume that it's an intuitive thinking process that we have that, we know when we're hot and we're cold. We know when we're getting the sniffles
Mhm,
or if we have a sore throat. And those are really obvious signs.
mhm.
But when something else is going on that maybe we're less familiar with, it can be, really easy to ignore or brush it off, first of all. But also, it can be really hard to notice until you put that into practice. It can be hard to recognize even, oh, actually, I'm not meant to feel that way or even that I do feel something. Can you tell us all a little bit more about that process of how do I train myself to recognize and what am I looking out for?
Mhm. There's so much going on in our bodies at one time, and there are a lot of really good reasons why we might feel disconnected and why we might feel like it's hard to listen. One of the biggest reasons why is that our culture has taught us to ignore our feelings and to not express them. Right? So having emotions and being emotional beings has kind of been off limits for a lot of us from a very young age. And we aren't taught that emotions themselves are actually a physical process. It's not a mental process. And so if we cut off that part of ourselves, we're cutting off a lot of natural processing that our body needs to go through. So that's a big element of listening to your body. But also, we're taught that we only have 5 senses, when in fact we actually have 18. We are collecting constant information from our environment that is like 95% of it is under the radar. And so we're not conscious of it. And yet we are always collecting it. So our brain is working behind the scenes. And unless we bring our awareness to that process of collecting information, it does stay under the radar. And it can be very tricky for us to kind of sense what's going on.
I'm surprised at the 18 senses. Can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, so a lot of it happens through touch. So our skin is an incredible organ in our body that is sensing so many aspects. It's sensing not just whether something is touching you, but it's how much pressure is it giving you? It's what is the temperature? Is there force or energy behind it? All of these cues that help you to know, if you have to grab hold of something really quickly, if you have to be careful of something in your environment, or to hold on to something a little bit tighter, those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's really piqued my interest. So I'm trying to understand the journey of somebody who's learning, how to listen to their body. And are you finding that clients are finding it to be an overwhelming experience?
I think that most people expect it to be overwhelming. And again, it's that has to do with our cultural conditioning of not being allowed to feel our feelings. And so there's the fear there that once we open up a valve, it's going to be like a fire hose. But in actuality, when we get started, it's super gentle and I really take my time with it. And so no, people when they start, they don't actually feel overwhelmed, but I think there is that underlying fear that it will be overwhelming.
And you've mentioned a couple of times about feelings, and we all know that feelings can manifest physically. So I guess what I'm curious about is because I think when I'm thinking, listen to what your body is telling you,
Yeah.
I'm immediately going to, ow, that hurts, or my stomach feels upset. So are those also the sort of things that we're learning to interpret, or is it purely the emotions behind it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there are a lot of people who do have challenges with these simple things like knowing when you're hungry or knowing when you're full. And it can be a real challenge for people and it affects their relationship to food. And it's kind of, the body doesn't really discriminate between all of these sensations. So if you start to pay attention to some and maybe they're over here, you're actually going to be opening up your brain to sensing all of the other things going on as well.
I'm wondering as well, are we confusing certain feelings or physical ailments or whatever they are for something that they're not?
Absolutely. It's really normal for people to feel a worry as though they have anxiety when actually they're feeling excited about something. Because in the body, they feel really similar. There's a elevated heart rate and, like maybe my palms are sweaty and maybe my underarms get sweaty in all of the places. And they tend to feel really similar. And yet, when you go underneath and just get a little bit curious, you'll see that they're actually quite different.
And what is the process like? We talked a little bit about the journey and, expecting it to be overwhelming and going gently and moving forward slowly and, perhaps for what each client needs. What is the length of this journey? When someone gets in touch with you to when you can kind of release them and say, okay, now you're on your own and go give it a try.
Most people want to sign up to work with me for 3 months or 6 months to start, and oftentimes that's good enough to feel like you've got your own legs and you've got a practice that makes sense for you. I'm also really keen on making my programs personalized for how it needs to work with their life. I always find that people develop this really fun curiosity that starts to it becomes infectious. And so it evolves into like a lifelong learning and curiosity.
Certainly. And I mean, once you start to see the improvements of, wow, I'm now recognizing these signals and I can do something about it, it's only going to improve. And who doesn't want to for that domino effect to fall in and just continue on that beautiful journey and share it and share it. I mean, your clients, they must be so much more able to care for their families or, productive or even just having fun themselves and getting out there and creating new hobbies and seeing life perhaps differently once they're really listening.
It's wild to see some progress that I would have never really expected. Improving family relationships is one that I was really surprised at. So it goes beyond just the physical. But then, of course, I have clients who are able to go kayaking again, right? Who thought that they had to give up certain physical activities. So it really runs the whole gamut of developing a lot more agency in your physical body. And then it resonates in through relationships and how you are able to be in touch with what's happening with you on the inside, no matter what's happening on the outside.
It sounds like something everybody and anybody would want and enjoy and benefit from. And I'm curious, is there anything that you offer where anyone interested can kind of get their feet wet or look at some more information to pique their
Absolutely.
curiosity?
I do have some free resources on my website. I I have a few different ways to check in with your body, have a little dialogue with it, and some guided attention exercises.
Awesome. And what I'll do, I'll make sure for everyone listening so that you can find that easily. I'll post it in the description of the video or the podcast episode, depending on where you're listening. So you can definitely find that. Alora, this has been incredibly informative. I think it's incredible work that you're doing, and I'm so excited to share it with everyone. I want to thank you so much for your time today.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks for joining me on the Holistic Health Show and trusting me to guide you towards proactive healthcare. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and get ready to embark on an incredible journey toward holistic wellness. Until next time, be well and stay holistic.